Yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a tutti.
Ciao Juventini, what is up? Unfortunately, it's not a victory Monday like many of us would have hoped. Unfortunately, we've got a draw, and a draw that felt probably like a loss for many of us. Should have felt like a loss, but we've got a ton in the aftermath to discuss nonetheless. I am going to be flying solo for this one today, but that's okay. Usually these are incredible sessions for myself anyways, to get even more interaction out of you, the live chat, and we can open it up for calls. Okay, so I will pop this up here real quick. That's going to be the number if you choose to reach out and you want to take part in the discussion. That's me on WhatsApp. Now, you don't call that number. Just send a text to that number on WhatsApp and I can get you in, okay? But that's going to be it. And probably easier to even put this one out on display right there, okay? So there you go. That's going to be how you can get into this one should you choose. I'm going to take a second to say what's up to everybody. Leave that on for a second. We got Tony Trim coming in here saying ciao. ARB Comps saying, I try to defend Allegri more than the average Juventus fan, but yesterday I can't defend him. We'll get into that. Joey Cappuccino, ciao, amigo, ciao. Oh, it's a frustrating one. Nader coming in here saying, howdy fellas. Max just finished punching the face. Was brave, modern, and courageous brand of football. Great game, he said. Team is getting better, he reckons. So glad I stayed up to watch it. Look, it's a frustrating one yesterday, no doubt. We're going to take a look at the highlights. We're going to talk about everything in the aftermath because there was quite a few things that I was actually really upset to be hearing, especially coming from a guy that's like an elder statesman around Juventus right now, and Wojciech Szczesny. His words absolutely disgusted me. We'll talk about that, but we'll talk about the game, what we saw in terms of our play, and what's going on. So again, let's start with the lineup. No, we talked about it, covered it going into it. No real issues with it. Vlahovic, Milik not available. Saw Keane in there, saw Chiesa, but to be honest, even for the Heat, Keane's taken in some say not a good showing or whatnot. He was left on an island, left on a friggin' island. Him and Chiesa had all to do it for themselves. I said going into it, the link up between Chiesa and Vlahovic left a lot to be desired. Well, it's not going to be any different if you plug and play somebody else in there. We're just not connecting, and it comes down to style, comes down to how we play, the ideas, and really essentially the fundamentals of this team. And my concern is a little bit bigger than what's going on just there, but we'll tackle it, okay? We'll get to the highlights real quick and just talk about it. And honestly, there's not much to get into it, but 14 minutes into this one, Juve gets extremely lucky on poor back post coverage, where Zappacosta was left completely alone on a cross that went to the back post. Thankfully for us, the guy kind of sucks, and he whiffed on the first one, and he whiffed on the follow-through, okay? So we get away with that one, and thank you again to Zappacosta. 30th minute, corner falls to Fagioli at the top of the area to Musso's right. He tried to curl one in there, forces a save out of Musso. McKennie tried to follow through on a rebound with a header, but again, aerial battle that doesn't end up falling for us. And then 34th minute, Keane doing his best, and this is what it was left to for him and Chiesa, and he's doing his best. He battles around two defenders just to get a shot, and in the end, the shot's very weak towards Musso and easily stopped. We get to halftime, and look, the way this game started, Juve was way too passive, and they were so sloppy in possession. All our guys, our midfielders, our flanks, like it was sloppy. It was really poor start to this game for Juventus. As the first half went on, Juve kind of grew into it, and they kind of started to generate a little bit. Still, nowhere near where we needed to be, but it wasn't so bad, okay? It wasn't that bad. We said in the second, we just have to find alternatives. You could see what Atalanta was doing, okay? You could see what they were doing. They tried to obviously rule Locatelli out, okay? But they also line up in a very similar fashion to Juventus, and they shut the flanks down. Anytime McKennie got the ball, he was shut down immediately, and he had no options in the middle. Why? This is the part that bothers me the most. And you've got a team that's very smart in how they operate. Gasparini knows how to play against Juventus. Rule out the regista. And then we're doing the same shit we did last season that didn't work last season. And we didn't start off this season by doing it, but our Metsalas are bombing forward. Fagioli and Rabiot are just, again, you're ruling out Locatelli, and they're bombing forward. And then they're too far ahead for even McKennie to turn and do anything. He's closed down immediately. We can only go back to the defense. The amount of time that we had our defenders, our center backs on the ball was disgusting. And I don't want to see them quarterback a play. I don't want to see them dictate a game by any means. And it shouldn't take, the best football minds in the world to figure out that that's not a good game plan, to leave the ball in Bremer, Gatti, and Danilo's feet to dictate for us. Nonetheless, that's what was going on. Cambiaso, again, practically invisible through this game, and we weren't trying anything. But in the second half, I said, let's make some adjustments. Let's help that out. Let's rotate the midfielders in and out of there a little bit better. Come back, collect the ball, build up together. This is the part that infuriated me. There was no adjustments. Because the first half overall, the way it was finished off, wasn't the end of the world. We need to make a couple adjustments, and ramp up that urgency. Give a shit. Didn't happen. No adjustments whatsoever. The same thing, and even worse through the second half, as Juve just sat back. And that part for me was unacceptable, that we didn't even try something else, try any other ideas. Infuriating. Our best opportunity probably of the game was in the 50th minute when the ball bounces back off of an error from Atalanta's Chiesa. Was actually offside at the moment, but because Atalanta had played it back off their own player by accident, he's onside. Then he ends up just holding on to it, taking a left-footed strike from probably just outside the area. Too close to Musso. He palms it away, and then we can't do anything with the rebound there, 73rd minute. Muriel with a free kick. This was an absolute massive save by Tech to just get fingertips to this. The second it left Muriel's foot, and I was calling it on the watch along. I said, he is very, very good at these. And man, I'm surprised Tech, the second it left his foot, I thought it was in the back of the net. And Tech got tips to it, got fortunate on the bounce that after it hit the crossbar, after his fingertips, bounced down off the ground, hits him, but goes out of bounds. This was a massive stop for Tech. 87th minute, shot from range, and Tech lets a rebound. So he goes from that crazy save to, again, a rebound he probably shouldn't be letting out on a dipping shot from Muriel. Cup Miners comes in here, gets it all wrong, thankfully, and Tech did well to close down the rebound quickly enough. 92nd minute, Gatti missing the ball at the edge of the area on a challenge. Cross comes in, and Cup Miners, honestly, if he hits target on this one, it's in the back of the net. Tech was left flat-footed there, but it goes over the bar, and that's fortunate for us. And honestly, it ends up there. And 0-0, but again, massively frustrating watch for Juventus. And again, we need to be way better, have way more ideas. It's just painful at this point, and I can't help but feel like, have we reverted back? Have we reverted back to the stuff we were seeing last season? Have we gone back? It's starting to feel that way for me. The ideas we were attempting earlier on in these matches leading up to before the Sassuolo debacle are night and day to what we've seen, since Lecce, now Atalanta. I don't like it. I don't like this trend of what I'm seeing, us going back to last season. And I said something on a show a couple episodes ago, and I'm not sure if all of you caught it, but it was my feeling watching this team is that they don't have that belief in themselves. I said, I feel like I believe in them more than they actually believe in themselves. What I'm hearing after this game is completely unacceptable. And it tells me everything I need to know. And what I was thinking is probably along the proper lines. when you have Wojciech Szczesny, okay, who's supposed to be one of the leaders in this group, been around for a while, and he comes out and he says that, yeah, there came a point where we went wrong in Sassuolo, was we didn't clamp down for the draw when we came back despite it being a bad game to 2-2. And he says today we did good for the draw. We realized that, you know what, it's best not to lose that point. That is not something I ever thought I'd hear come from a Juventus player. It's funny because we talked about in the pre-match show, the preview show, and I said that, you know, Omer was saying this is a must win. And I said, well, it's more a can't lose. You can't lose. But my God, the second half, that tells me everything I needed to know. Okay, it tells me everything I needed to know. That they came out second half, rather than look for adjustments, anything, it's like they've accepted and they believe this is the best play that they're capable of. Going into Bergamo and getting a tie. This is not, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable, you guys, okay? The standard slips away further and further and further every single day. Every single day. It's infuriating. They actually believe this is the best they're probably capable of. And you know what? The 2-2 at Sassuolo, that's where we talk about it. You want to progress, you want to be a good team, a strong team, you get after it. You come all this way, you fight so hard to get back to a 2-2. 10 minutes left in the game. That's where champions are born. That's where winners are made. Moments like that, you draw back level and then you push for it and you get that winner. But to suffice and just say, no, that's it. We needed to clamp down. We needed to get that draw and hold that point rather than get after it for the win shows me the ambition. And I said in the second half, we had no ambition. There was no ambition from Juventus. And when you hear words like that, it backs up what our feelings are. Because I felt like that for a while. I questioned the ambitions. I can't get down with that. Wojciech Szczesny saying that is so disheartening. It feels as bad as some of those losses we had to deal with last season. The Monza, the Empoli, Maccabi Haifa. Like, it's just pain. It's just pain. And I can't get out of that. I can't get that out of my head that came from a Juventus player. So in terms of the belief, it's not there. It's just not there. And now if you want to talk about actual play, and this is why it's so difficult right now for Juventus, because I said that there's games where I put more on players and there's games where I put more on management, coaching staff, etc. Yesterday, for me to come out in the second half with zero adjustments and just happy that they're ruling out your Regista, you're still bombing your Metsalas forward aimlessly, without the ability to actually hit anybody or find anybody with a ball through Bremer, Gatti, Danilo, and your flanks getting absolutely shut down. No adjustments whatsoever. That's infuriating for me from a coach and his staff, that there's no alternatives. There's no plan B. We have no plan B. If plan A gets shut down for Juventus and your flanks are shut down, this is what you get. And even if we think to the good moments, okay, and don't get me started on this. Don't get me started on this, okay? I know that's bullshit, and the reason we know that's bullshit is because you could see all over Max's face when he was leaving the pitch. And you know what? He's frustrated. He's pissed off with it. You got to do something, Max. It's in your hands, okay? But again, I'm going to keep going on this tactical stuff. When you look at the good moments through the beginning of the season, what was the generation still? The generation, for the most part, was still through the flanks. When you shut down the flanks on this team, there is nothing there. There's nothing there. We have to have alternatives to when teams do this. And I'm shocked that not enough teams in this league have figured that out. The blueprint has been laid out for us for these past few years. It's very, very easy. You take the flanks away from Juventus, and we are dead in the water, and the creation goes to an all-time low. Yesterday probably being the lowest. It definitely was the lowest in Max's return as far as goals expected and whatnot. It's crazy. It's crazy. And hey, and Nader, we're going to get to that too. That question you just popped up there. Guys, Storm the Barn can happen at any point in this episode when it's just us, okay? So Storm the Barn at any time. But back on my thought here with the coaching staff and not making alternatives. You have to have an alternative. We can't just go there and try the same thing through a second half when it hasn't worked and expect things to change. It's just not. But when you hear these words like Tech says and they're seemingly okay with it, that's when the blood starts to boil, okay? Furthermore, now that I've said the coaching staff upset me yesterday and I put a lot on them for what went down, the players themselves, it's just leaving a lot to be desired still. And our midfield, again, tactically, it needs help because you can't have the Metsalas bombing forward and just bailing on Locatelli and bailing on those three center backs. They should not be leading the play, the three center backs, just because Locatelli's out. Leave these guys back. Build up together as a team. The gaps, again, from Keane to other players were massive. And we can't get there to support fast enough when we're trying to play this long ball game. And then when you're trying to build up, still only through Chiesa, Keane, and whatnot, the gaps are all wrong. Positions are all wrong. Furthermore, defensively, you're playing three center backs, and still we were unable to press in any way, shape, or form or support our mids or attack in any type of press because you've got three center backs back. De Catalere was usually drifting to one flank or the other, and when he did so, we used our wing backs to hang back, even with three center backs, rather than push that wing back forward and just man mark De Catalere, who's really nothing physical, looks like a 12-year-old out there. And we let that happen. We are playing so timid, so afraid to make mistakes, afraid to lose. Since Sassuolo, it's painful. It's painful. They have to snap out of that, or I really fear we're going to dive back into, those old habits of last year, and I think it's just really, really bad. Oh, frustrating one, Juventus. But like I said, you have multiple things going on, okay? For me, no alternative plans, no adjustments. Our players need to step it up. Defense, I talked about them not even pushing up the wing backs when there's only one player in the area, in the zone that they happen to be playing around at the moment. Push them forward. And the midfield not cycling around to correct the ball. It's brutal. It's brutal. Performances, you want to talk about performances? A man of the match? Come on. Tech saved the point. Without Tech, we don't get that point there. That was massive. And outside of that, honestly, McKennie, for what he continues to do in his work rate and everything like that, I had no problems with him. I thought he was, again, still putting in good shifts. But it's got to be Tech, I think, strictly for that save. Now, we got a question here as we're going to talk about performances and everything. And I said that there was a question here. You guys can get Storm the Barn going whenever you want. And let's get those likes up, please. Come on, while you're in here, like the video. Of course, subscribe to the channel. What the fuck has happened to Cambiaso? So, and this is another one of those things. I'm not sure why all of a sudden, and this would have been an adjustment to make yesterday against Atalanta. Cambiaso and McKennie, we talked about it. You're lined up very similar to how Atalanta plays. The flanks get shut down immediately. The second Cambiaso and McKennie are getting balls, they're closed down on both sides, okay? You got to move them in centrally to help out, especially if you're bombing those Metsalas forward like that. Swing them in centrally a little bit more to get them more involved and on the ball. But the rotation and again, the lack of movement. The lack of movement. We were starting to look more and more like last season. So at the start of the year, as our movement was good and we were trying new sequences and guys were active, now we're slowing down again. But Cambiasso is miles away from where he started. And one of the things that I didn't like about it that we saw earlier on the season, I just kind of spoke about, but that's holding Cambiasso back. And then Kostic, when he had come on or whatnot, holding these guys back. And then they can't even press forward to at least close down space on other players because one player is around the vicinity when you still have a center back right next to him. Man up on that player and push Cambiasso forward, push Kostic up. That way when we win the ball, we actually have options and we can try to move and counter at them quickly enough. But this is... it's just, it's painful. A lot of the good is almost gone as if it never happened. And this is my fear that Sassuolo one has set in old habits, everybody. Old habits die hard. This team may be shifting there. In the midfield, guys, we need way more, even beyond tactically. We need just way more from these guys as individuals. Okay, and you can't have a guy playing the way Rabiot has and be a lock in the starting 11. You can't do it. Furthermore, Fagioli, I like the kid. Need more out of these guys. They need to find ways to get involved. So even beyond the coaching, even beyond the lack of planning, something I've said when I was talking about the players a couple days ago, these guys have to find ways to get an impact and an influence for their team in games. And these guys aren't able to do so on their own. So now you have a team that, for the most part, I don't think is planning as strong as they can for the opponents that they're facing, okay? Not making adjustments in game either, which is infuriating. But beyond that, we don't carry the individual brilliance to bail us out and to save us when that's happening. So you have, again, a number of things. It's everything. It's kind of everything all together. But you've got to, you can't have these guys strolling through these games and leave it be. Okay? It has to change. But I don't know. I've been questioning these players more and more throughout, and you guys keep coming back at me with the coach and stuff like that, which again, I don't exhaust Allegri from anything. Okay? I don't. And like I said about yesterday, I was pissed that we had no ideas, no alternatives, no adjustments beyond trying to still go through flanks when the flank is dead and bombing Metzalas forward and aimlessly playing long balls, popping long balls up there, looking for flick-ons from like Rabiot and whatnot. But you got to start using guys. We see Hans come up in the chat here, everybody. Hans Nicolucci Cavilla needs a chance. And enough of Luca's emo attitude. Rabiot, Luca, Fagioli, nobody's doing anything in there. Okay? Like, nobody's doing anything. They're moving around aimlessly for the most part. Rabiot found an opportunity to finally get a run in on some space. Fagioli hits him with the ball. Rabiot goes to collect this thing on his strong foot and puts it 25 feet fucking ahead of him. Easily given possession back to Sassuolo. We could be running on a break there. Like, these guys, even beyond the planning, even beyond poor adjustments or lack of adjustments in game, these guys are falling flat on their face time and time again. Like, it's just, we need way more. We need way more. Rabiot had acres of space in that moment, and that's how he collected the ball on his strong foot. I have no words for that at that level. Like, you guys, these players are also not doing nearly enough. And I can't watch a moment like that and see this guy continue to get be a lock in the middle of the pitch. It's brutal. It's infuriating. You've got to just keep things rolling. You have to keep things rolling. And for Locatelli and even Fagioli and whatnot, like Fagioli to me, it doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't even make sense that you would bomb this guy forward. And it's just, if you're going to bomb one guy out of the midfield, okay, that's fine. That would make sense. And then pivot up with the other two. But you still have to have alternatives. You still have to get the ball out of your center back's feet into guys that can actually distribute. And then the other thing is, when our guys distribute, they don't move. Kenan Yildiz came into this game. When Yildiz came into this game, and I even made a shout during yesterday's game that I might sacrifice somebody in the middle of the park yesterday for Yildiz and play him just behind our forwards, because nobody was taking in the ball, distributing it, and then just moving. It was passing and standing and so stagnant. I gotta say, I liked Kenan Yildiz for the small portion he was in there, because he was actually doing that. He was doing what the Atalanta players were doing to us, even though for the most part defensively, we didn't really give Atalanta a bunch. As frustrating as our game was, and we didn't really give them a whole lot. But they were moving. They were coming back to the ball. They were picking it up, distributing it, and then moving into space and cycling and rotating. We don't do that. We pass it around. We just stand there. Like, we're just waiting for somebody to do something. Waiting for, like, Chiesa to essentially take on the world and find a goal. It's not enough. So there is a long road ahead, Juventini. A long road ahead. If we're not seeing adjustments, we're not seeing game plans, and if we're hearing these players start to talk, start to believe maybe that this is the best they're capable of, we are almost fully converted to Provinciale, everybody. Okay? To Provinciale side. Scary. Storm the barn. Gatti and his crazy runs exposing us, head down. Then looks up and says, oh no, yeah, he did carry the ball into some space a couple times too quickly, and then took his options away again. Some of his options could have moved, could have done some. I just see too much standing. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, what have I been saying for the majority of this start here to this show? Get the ball out of these guys' feet. Who is showing up to collect it? Who is coming back to get it? And then moving and distributing? Nobody really. Like, get the ball out of those center backs' feet. Shocking. And that shouldn't take a football genius to sort out. That you don't want those guys dictating the game. What will be my starting lineup against Torino? Overhaul in the midfield. Okay, well, if Vlahovic is a goal, Vlahovic is up top. Okay, in the middle of the park. So, sure, sides are they're gonna play physical and whatnot. At the back, honestly, I might actually go with Rugani again, and go Rugani, Bremer, Danilo. But I'm even fine if Gatti's in there. I don't have an issue with the three center backs. Okay, I have an issue with us leaving them on the ball far too long. So I have no problem either way with that. In the midfield, McKennie's going to be a start for me on that side. I would probably, you know what? Like, I can't understand how Illing Jr. can't break through right now when Cambiaso's kind of seemingly reverted back and Kostic is really doing nothing over and above. So maybe Illing Jr. Maybe I would actually play Illing Jr. to try and do some type of spark. I know that's not going to be favorable against a team that's going to want to play physical from the start and everything, but honestly, we just can't keep going with those two bringing nothing. As far as in the middle, your midfielders, I'm still going to go with Locatelli. I'm going to hang all three of them back to actually build up together. But I might actually pivot up. I might actually pivot up and use one forward in how we set up. And I wouldn't be against trying a guy. If I was going to try a guy like Yildiz up ahead and just keep, say, Rabiot and Locatelli back there, I would put probably Kostic on the left side together. But to be honest, it's tough. It's a tough call in the middle because you want to get these rotations in there. Maybe Hans Nicolucci Caviglia and Loca pivoting, and maybe you put Fagioli a little bit higher up, but centrally. Stop using our guys that we advance so much just on one side. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. I'm left thinking about this and going over in my head a million times, but try something, do a spark something. I don't think we can continue too much with these guys without letting them feel so safe and complacent. You got to try something at some point, right? We'll see. We'll see. McKennie was at least trying. McKennie didn't have a good game yesterday at all from Matt. I actually thought he did okay for the fact he had no space. He had no space to work with and whatnot, but he was still trying things, still trying to move the ball forward at times where our other flank did nothing at all, invisible. It's tough. It's tough. It's a tough call. Like, we're looking at this and we're feeling one way about these guys and the minutes they're getting and everything, and you want to change up, but at the same time, when you're looking at the alternatives, it also tells you that you can be a little bit handcuffed here and there. We'll see. I got some keep the storm the barns coming, you guys. It's great. This is the nice thing about when I'm coming on here solo, is that we can tackle way more of these. What did we do against Lazio again? Well, that was the same lineup we saw against Sassuolo. And yeah, and that's one of the things. Tony Trim saying win, lose, or draw, it all looks the same. It's starting to all look the same. Starting to look all the same. Mark 1 with his midfield. Kostic, Miretti, Locatelli, McKennie, Weah. So Weah came on yesterday for a bit too. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go back to McKennie in the midfield. I don't know. Bad vibes with it. Miretti was really bad when he came in yesterday. Really, really bad. But again, you're collecting the ball. 0 options around. Spaces was terrible. Again, the play, the planning, the ideas, the adjustments, it's a part of the problem, but the guys are a part of the issue too. Kostic, yeah, I don't know. But Yildiz yesterday looked good to me. He looked good to me in what he was doing, how he plays the game. We need that. We need that from the guys that are going to be in there, in the middle of the park especially. I'm kind of leaning towards a little bit of an experiment and try to get Yildiz in behind our 2 forwards, to be honest. And I wouldn't have fear in doing so in a home match, especially when the Ultras are going to be there, because that is probably going to help us out tremendously against Torino. We know that is their kind of last goal before they get some plans. We are hearing that, thankfully, there is talks ongoing. I actually think they are going to find a solution with the Ultras. Hopefully, fingers crossed, something gets announced within the next couple weeks. The thing that everyone's got to be aware of is Juve has their guard up right now with the Ultra scenario and everything, and it's kind of one of those situations where, they've got to set the tone and they've got to make sure that they cover themselves, because it's almost going to create this feeling or sensation like Juve's probably feeling like, okay, they get that foot back in the door, and then where does it go from there? Right? So I think Juve's being extremely cautious and trying to lay out the groundwork of, hey, look, it's going to be this. So if you guys come back, this is essentially it. This is where we're at. Nothing changes. Nothing goes on from there. Or you probably go back to a ban if they ever get threats anymore about chants during games and whatnot, trying to get the team fines or penalties of any sort, right? For right now, the discussions are, everything I'm hearing is strictly just to have the Ultras there and be allowed the same luxuries that the visiting fans at Allianz Stadium are able to have: flags, banners, drums, etc. But again, you have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself, and Juventus is just trying to set the tone that, hey, it's not going to turn into, okay, we're back in here. Now let's talk tickets. Now let's talk discounts on tickets. Let's talk extra tickets, whatnot. They have to set the tone that, hey, look, this is it. You come back, and that's it. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, the Ultras would be a big boost for this team, and I think it impacts the players in a big way. That's another thing that happened in that Lazio match, which was beautiful. Back passes were a coaching instruction yesterday. Well, again, there's two teams that are on the pitch. Atalanta ruled out our regista. Okay. The only time he collected the ball was when he was dropped even further back than our center backs. And our Metsalas went forward way too soon. Gatti, Danilo, Bremer, these guys can't find those guys. I lost count of how many errant balls forward there were. Okay? You get the ball to the flanks, they're closed down immediately. So it's not necessarily that was an instruction. There was no instruction on how to deal with Atalanta and the fact that they closed down the space in the areas we want to do well in. If you look to the games we did well in, we were able to generate from the flanks. You take that away from Juventus, this team continues to struggle and has continued to struggle for years. We have to find alternatives. Everybody. Keep the Storm the Barn questions coming in. Torino's next up for Juventus. The month of October, we talked about it yesterday, and it's going to be a big month for Juventus. Does this one make or break us? No. The problem is everything we're talking about, the feelings we're getting watching this team, and the way that they're approaching matches now. The approach feels completely different. And when you're hearing players come out after games saying that they had to just realize that the draw is what they need to do and just not lose the point, it's very, very telling. Okay, very, very telling. Nonetheless, you would have to think 9 points is a must out of this October. Atalanta, Torino, Milan, Hellas Verona. Well, I'll tell you right now, Torino's going to be tough, but we should be getting the victory there, and we should be going at Torino, okay? Milan is going to be very difficult. That is going to be after the international break. So we have the Derby della Mole, then the international break. Milan, the way they're playing compared to us, that's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. I'm already nervous for that one based on what I've seen. The shift in us from start of the season to now, I feel like we're going to be in for a long match there again of sitting back, clamping down so deep. Hellas Verona to finish up the month. You got 1 point so far with Atalanta. You've got to get a victory in the Derby della Mole. You have to get a victory against Torino. Milan, that's going to be difficult. Very, very difficult. And then Hellas Verona. Tough to get 9 now, okay? But we'll see how she goes. Derby della Mole now. But again, going back to how we were feeling at the start of the season, and people asking me, do I feel the same? Like we're still, can make this run down the Scudetto, I'm going to be quite honest. We had a question that came up yesterday at the beginning of the watch along, and it came in from Jeremiah, and it was a great question. And said, how much trust do you have in these players right now that they're going to show up today against Atalanta and get the job done? Well, it's too early in the season. It was too early in the season. We've only seen 6 games going into yesterday, and it's too early to determine where I feel. Right now, I'm frustrated because we didn't get a solid reaction after the Sassuolo debacle. But now, a couple games after, I feel like we've reverted to last season. I feel like we've gone full circle, and it's like, okay, we were going to try this thing. We had one hiccup, one awful, awful match, and now I feel we've completely reverted. So now it doesn't even become this thing of I haven't seen enough to not trust these guys. Now I feel like I can confidently say I know how Juve is going to approach these games and the rest of the season, especially when a guy like Szczesny comes out and says something like that, where they have accepted that, yeah, we need to get this point. And where they call themselves out in Sassuolo of all the things to point out and say you got wrong in that game. A bad game, you're at 2-2, and we didn't hang on to the point. What? You had them reeling. You work back at them. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. You went back at them. You got level. You needed to attack for the 10 minutes, put them under. Our former champions, Fabrizio Ravanelli, said 2-2, and then you did nothing when you could have swarmed them. You could have been a shark, sensing the blood in the water, get after it. The mentality is not there. The mentality is not there. The planning is not there. The alternative, there's a lot going on at Juventus. I am losing. I'm losing my confidence. I said it a couple shows ago, said it at the start of the show. I have more belief in these guys that they're capable of more than they actually do in themselves. And that is the saddest thing for a Juventus fan, is to come to those terms. Okay? And like I said, those words, they will stick with me and they will haunt me. Clean house. Clean house. Okay? Clean house with the roster. Continue to do the work you're doing financially. Okay? Continue to do that work financially. But start bringing in characters. Start bringing in men who are ready to fight and lead the charge. And to be honest, this is where I got into it and where I started to really get pissed off with Max Allegri. Okay? Yesterday, like I said, Matt, make an adjustment at half. Gasparini made an adjustment, okay? And he started changing the way he was using Cup Miners and the way he was using Lookman. How does it finish off? Well, the team that made 0 adjustments finished with one opportunity. One opportunity that fell to us that was actually a shot from like 22, 23 yards out off of Chiesa's bad foot, off an error by Atalanta to even get the ball to him. And the other team finished with like 12 attempts, okay? And damn near finding a goal. And honestly, if a couple errant shots didn't happen there and an insane save from our goalie, would have found the victory. That's the difference. I need way more from Max Allegri. And I was challenged yesterday online when I was calling him out for the lack of planning, lack of adjustments, something Max Allegri is supposed to be great at. Well, I was told that he is trying to implement ideas, but the players are not capable. And I said, bullshit, okay? That's bullshit. If you're telling me that yesterday, in the second half, he tried to implement new ideas and an alternative plan, okay, I'm going to call bullshit immediately, because it would have at least looked like our players were trying to do something different. They did not try anything different than the first half. And they even shelled up even dropping deeper than they were in the first half. So I don't want to hear it. We made zero adjustments in that one. And the bigger thing here that is infuriating me is that you're in year 3 now, okay? And if you don't have an alternative to when your main style and approach of playing through flanks, okay, and Mitsalas to help flanks and help forwards and getting them deep forward, if that is shut down, which it has been getting shut down quite a bit, okay, because regardless of the fact that there's not a lot of fear factor coming for Juve for several years now to teams, it's been shut down a lot. You still don't have an alternative or another plan is shocking to me. That is like a bare minimum to me. You have to have another idea. You can't plug and play the same style, the same approach for every single opponent. We played Atalanta in a preseason that ended in a draw too, and the same thing happened. You have to have more ideas. I have no words for it. And I call bullshit on anyone that challenged me and says he tried to change things up at the half and it didn't work. No. The only thing we've been doing is changing players, but nothing stylistically in what we try to do there. It's crazy. We could have played yesterday for 17 hours straight. We weren't going to find a goal. We weren't going to get a sniff of one. Just not enough ideas. Not enough ideas. And again, the execution in moments, not there. Not there. One, probably of the best moments I saw we could maybe form a solid scoring opportunity was when we had a break and we could have launched Chiesa in the second half, and Fagioli saw it, but he saw it a little too late, and then his through ball ended up going to Chiesa's back leg and he couldn't trap it. And if Fagioli sends it immediately from when he sees it and puts it on the carpet and curls it around that defender, Chiesa's probably in free and clear. But again, that's what I say. Just I need way, way higher level of execution. But this brings so much more about this team. You have these guys that have been struggling as individuals, as players. Okay, that's fair to say. And they've been struggling individually, performance-wise, consistency-wise, decision-making, etc. You have that, okay? You have that as an issue. Reverting back to last season makes me feel the same way I did about that type of style with these players, with this group, as it was last season. How can you do that and play in that style when your execution has to be so spot on because you're trying to smash and grab games, and every single moment, every single second in like a counter is so critical, and every touch has to be spot on and whatnot? It's too much. It's too much. This team needs to be playing in a style that is based around the fundamentals in build-up and building up as a unit and moving forward as a unit. Picking up the ball, distributing it, and then moving and cycling. Like, that's how they need to figure it out. This smash and grab approach, we don't have the individual brilliance to pull that off consistently enough to be where we want to be or progress enough. I don't see it. I don't see it. It doesn't make sense for us to have that as the main source. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on here. So many feelings, you guys. When we talk about and getting to Rabiot and his yellow card. So yeah, picking up a yellow card. He gets one in the Derby della Mole. He's out against Milan, and who knows, maybe that is when Max will be forced to try something different in the midfield, and maybe we see something different and we can build off it, kind of like when McKennie got hurt and whatnot. I'm not saying Rabiot needs to be benched entirely, but we need to see some type of changes in there, guys. Dan Davenport coming in here saying Allegri has taken Juve as far as he can, in his opinion. Well, yeah, most seem to believe that. Most seem to believe that, and I don't think it's. And this is the thing: is that a lot of the Allegri supporters that are backing him wholeheartedly through this, I don't think they kind of understand the fact that where I was coming from last season speaks more to the club than it actually does Max Allegri. Because they take this to heart when you say that Max probably isn't the guy for this team or to take them where we need to be, because it's not even so much as a knock to him as it is more this realization of where Juventus is. Max needs something more of a finished product. Okay? Max is a man manager. Max works numbers, calendars, schedules. He's a planner. Okay? And he can get a finished product very, very far, as he's shown in the past. But for where we are at right now, and when I see breakdowns fundamentally in our game and being fundamentally broken, we need an actual philosophy. We need a footballing philosophy, style, and approach that is, number one, simplistic. Number two, not necessarily relying on individual brilliance whatsoever, that involves the actual team and incorporates everybody. We need that. That is what this team needs. The fundamentals are broken. So to take a guy whose style, system, and whatnot, and kind of philosophy, being very pragmatic and whatnot, and smashing and grabbing goals and whatnot, we don't have that caliber of guys around it. And it's not to say, again, like a knock on Max per se. It's just I see us needing to change completely. And when I hear these guys that are associated to this type of mindset that we hear in this post game of what just happened, again, going to text words tells me a lot about where the team's at mentally. We need a wash. We need a wash. I would separate as many guys associated with this as possible. But and yeah, Dybala coming out and saying we don't play good football. These guys, they know it, and it's almost we've been accepting it for a while, and it's crazy. It's crazy. ARB Comps with a storm in the barn. Last time Juventus looked like a team that properly resembled the motto "Fino alla fine" was 2017-18. Yeah, it's been a slow fade at that moment. It was the following year, the 18-19 year, that Cristiano Ronaldo came in. Yeah, yeah. And from there, it just slowly, gradually, even with Cristiano Ronaldo, slowly, gradually started to get to this weird, just weird Juventus that got weaker, and weaker, and it seemed like the actual team chemistry slowly started to break down. Now, I'm not tying that to Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm just saying that was like such a crucial, pivotal moment around Juventus, because we ended up losing Beppe Marotta, Paratici, which we all now saw was just such a disaster in terms of business. And is like Paratici set us back so far, you guys. The Paratici thing has set us back a long time. We're gonna be struggling for a while, I feel, to be honest with you guys. It's gonna be very, very difficult for Juve to get out of this. We have to, again, trust the process as far as Giuntoli goes. Okay, because I said it yesterday, probably in the preview, we're probably not going to see Giuntoli be able to properly act and come through. Maybe not this coming Mercado, but probably the one after that, because we're still going to have financial cleanup that has to take place this upcoming summer. And yeah, it might be a whole another year beyond that before we see the shackles come off of Giuntoli. But until those financial burdens are gone, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding for us, you guys. And that's why it is critical that we get the most out of the roster we do have. And that is the question that I am going to leave with all of you right now. Are we getting the most out of what we have, in your opinion? If a manager came in right now, okay, because some go to that extreme where they think the change needs to be done right now. I kind of gave everybody the reality yesterday that, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. But if a coach came in immediately right now, is everything solved? No, it isn't. Because through games, we can see where these guys' execution is, okay? And changing this mindset now, it's been ingrained for a while now. That's why I say it's incredibly disheartening to hear players talk like that. We got to shake that off, and sometimes you just got to get rid of them. Sometimes you just got to, when you're trying to do something like that, and I think back to businesses. I think back to business decisions when new management teams came in, new ownership, etc., and they didn't like the kind of mindset, the aura or whatnot at this particular businesses. They would sometimes come in and clean house on, quite a few staff and bring in people their own to kind of be ambassadors for the change that they wanted. And maybe that kind of has to happen at Juventus, I think, as far as players go. Szczesny, for me, could leave tomorrow after saying something like that and whatnot. And not that it's his fault per se, but it's brutal that that's how our players are thinking right now. Crazy. We should be getting after games like that, but we'll see. ARB Comps saying, I don't think a change of coach would fix everything, but something has to give. Eventually, something does have to give. Dan Davenport says, no, we need investment to get new players. Yeah. Dell says there's no harm in stopping the rot now. It's not that there's any harm in it other than obviously the financials, which then set back that investment in players a bit more. But again, I think it's part of what's going on. You still have to get some of these players out that have been under that mindset. Dell says any coach will need at least 12 to 18 months to unlearn the lads from Max's methods mentality. It'll take time. It will take time. That's the thing. As far as Giuntoli goes, okay, he's got to also realize he's not at Napoli anymore and stop with this nonsense of naming those weak sides with saying the fact that there are rivals. Nobody. Okay? It doesn't change. And this is the whole thing. Like, this fear, this dropping of expectations, this fear of accepting that you're not where you need to be, trying to make things right, trying to feed this bullshit to everybody that everybody can see right through. Just stop it, you guys. Stop it. Accept where we are, okay? But don't lower the standards and whatnot. And I totally understand setting goals up that are achievable so that you can hit them and feel better and feel like a success and whatnot. But at the same time, you got to realize how far off this Juve is from where we need to be as a club. Okay? It might as well be light years away. All right? Again, we have to be patient. We do have to be patient. Mark once saying with a budget of 50 million euro and no income from selling players to spend during the winter mercado, which players would you go for? A budget of 50 million euro. I believe, and I've been saying for a while, realistically, a deal like that of Samardzic would be fantastic for Juventus. But I do feel as though as far as talents go, Kefren Turam would be strong to bring in. But I wouldn't chew that all up with where we're at right now, because Kefren Turam, number one, he's not going to go anywhere in the winter mercado. Number two, I think his price tag is going to be probably minimum 50 million, if not more, in the summer. I think it's actually going to be more. I don't know. It's really, really tough. I think certain young guys need to go out on loan, and we need to boost the quality with guys that are ready now. The problem is that we're going to have question marks around everybody that comes in, if they're going to be ready to be those guys. And with our young guys, Cambiaso included in there, Ailing Jr., with Miretti, with Fagioli, we're hard on these guys, okay? And part of the problem is that we are relying on them so much and expecting so much because we need it right now. And it's not helping them whatsoever. It really isn't. I mean, it's cool that Miretti's got his 50 caps, whatnot, for Juve already at this young age and whatnot. But honestly, everybody can see it. This kid needs a loan. He needs a loan spell. Sule needed it for a while. He got one. He's starting to do well. That's great. Miretti needs one. Having these guys around is cool. It's awesome. You have to have youth going. It's great what we're doing with Next Gen. But honestly, we need guys that are ready now. We need guys that are ready now, because the contingency planning leading up to this moment was so piss poor at Juventus that the backup plans just haven't really been there. And it's hard for me to sit here and pick, say, 50 million euro. Who are you bringing in here? It's really, really hard for me to say. And maybe, just maybe, that Berardi move would have actually been good for Juventus when you look at us not being able to create a lot, and he's a veteran presence and whatnot. Maybe, just maybe, you spend a little bit there, but I still don't like that move, and I still don't like that spending there. But Samardzic, I think, would help a lot. I actually really do. When you watch him play and what he's about, the deal would be right. Okay, that would be a loan with then obligation to purchase. You could still take that money you've got there and bolster things in the winter mercado. But as far as which players would we go for, I don't really know. Cup Miners, I think, would help a lot, but he's not. I can't see him leaving in the winter mercado, and his price tag, I think, is still iffy, but I don't really know right now. You'd have to depend on the options available, but for the most part, the bigger thing at Juventus, before even getting into that, is to figure out what we want to do, what we're trying to do. Are we even going to stick around with this 3-5-2? Is it time to shift things? Is it time to say, you know what? Rugani's been reliable. We're going to start him in a back four as his natural center back and put him next to Bremer, and have Danilo on the right side, have Cambiaso or Kostic even as a left fullback. And can you play McKennie as a fullback in a back four? People are starting to throw these ideas out there, but maybe you shift it. Maybe you get out of this 3-5-2. Maybe it cleans up the spacing, and we can press a little bit better, have more balance across the front, create a front three, ask more questions of teams. I don't know. I don't see him making a change for it, though. I'm with you, Tony Trim. I don't see Max making the change for it, but I'm asking the question, do you guys think we can do it? You guys think we can do it? Tony Trim doesn't believe we can do it with this roster. Um, but he says, is what everyone says. Well, to be honest, I kind of feel that way. But Rugani, if we're talking about him needing to get more minutes in a back three, maybe, just maybe, you could swing it. Because for me, it always came down to the back. What happens at the back to make a back four? But if we're talking about Rugani getting more minutes, then I think we should probably have a serious look about going to a back four. Okay? Maybe we should have a serious look at doing that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Now, why are we getting so many yellow cards? Is this another injustice against Juventus, or are we asking for it? Well, had this discussion with actually L'Arbitro Nick the other day, and we were talking about Juve being one of the most penalized. And to be honest, how many of those cards haven't been warranted? I can only think of like two. I can only think of two that were probably like, okay, that's harsh yellow. Otherwise, all of them are warranted. So I don't actually think, yeah, it's any injustice or anything whatsoever. I think you have a team that, number one, some of them are very undisciplined. And number two, you surrender the ball a ton. You're going to take yellow cards. You're going to take yellow cards. Another thing is turnovers. Juve turns the ball over far too much in critical moments, and they're forced to take these fouls that are yellow cards to slow the other team down so that we can get into position. Because, again, ball retention is yet another one of those struggles for Juventus, and turnovers in key play-making areas and moments. So, yeah, definitely not an injustice. Just, just a product of the circumstances and situations and how we play, to be honest. But we've come full circle, I feel. And I'm worried that the Sassuolo game has shifted our frame of mind right back to where we were. Juventus has to try something. They have to try something, and they have to change something. If we're talking about this coach and everything, like, Max has to earn that money right now. Like, now's the time. If we don't make changes right now and something doesn't change drastically, this could actually shift quite ugly moving forward. Like, does anybody feel like, I don't feel like we're gonna miss out on top four? Does anybody actually feel that way in the live chat right now? Does anybody feel that way? And I'm gonna bring in Tal, who's tuning in and has sent a message. Again, I'll put the number up here if you're looking to get on for a call in. Okay, that's the number. You could just send me a message on there if you want to call in. I'm going to bring Tal in. But Tony Trim is nervous about it. So I do feel nervous that we're not getting in top. I don't feel that way. Matt says no way. RB will get top four. And Nader saying third season, mate. I fear the top four spots. Nikki T, nope, we'll be in top four. It'll be a struggle, but it's possible from Crazy Italian 3. I don't fear that we're not going to be getting in there. Okay, I don't fear it. And I'm going to try and connect with Tal right now. Let's see if I can get him on here. See if we can get Tal in here.
How's it going?
Pretty good, my friend. You're live on the air with us now. Tal, what's going on, my man? How are you feeling right now?
I'm not feeling great in general. Um, but it, what upsets me is something that you remarked on, is that you look at the first couple games of our season, and it looked like even during Sassuolo, there were passages of play where we were like, okay, we're actually trying to do something.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Atalanta match, and it's like, nope, complete shutdown. let it all go. Don't do anything smart. Don't do anything clever. Just lock it down. And it's almost like, guys are making runs, but nobody's making passes while runs are happening. So then you have a situation where I feel like majority of the match guys who were running, didn't run when they needed to.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of us just standing around. Also, I have to give a massive shout out to Moise Keane, who last season we gave a lot of shit for having basically zero first touch. And I highly recommend everybody go this Atalanta match where almost every first ball he got, whether it was to the chest or to the foot or to the head, he was able to bring down and he was able to control.
Yeah.
And if somebody would have come short, this is like I was yelling this at the TV the whole game. I was like, somebody come short for him. So he's not man marked by three guys. I mean, I thought he looked like he was getting jumped for half the match.
Yeah.
And he didn't even have 90 minutes in his legs. And that's what he was able to do. And so, I'm always trying to take positives away, because if you just sit around being negative all the time, like it's just depressing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and the other thing is that, sure, while realistically, if Atalanta had their shooting boots on, it could have been 5-0 pretty easily with some of the mistakes we made. We didn't open up the midfield like we did that allowed Sassuolo to get 3 of their goals.
Yeah, well,
excluding Gotti's error at the end of the match, those other 3 goals were literally our lapses in judgment in the kind of defensive midfield area. Again, that being said, I don't think the Regista thing is working for us. I think if you look at the midfields that have been successful in Serie A, a lot of them play with a double pivot and an attacking midfielder. And the reason that works is because with that double pivot, you have 2 midfielders sharing Regista duty. And if you mark out Luca, we have nobody to quarterback plays. And when Luca's marked out, he doesn't operate very well in tight spaces and getting the ball out of tight spaces. So he's going to drop further and further back. That's going to push more of our play out to the wings. And like you've said time and time again, you push the play out to the wings. If you stop us on the wings, we have nothing through the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's just frustrating that we are a team at this caliber and we don't have alternatives.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing for me that stands out right now is just there's no plan B. There's no alternatives. There's no new ideas. It's the same plug and play, and it's draining. I think it's draining for all involved. It's draining for us as fans to watch match in, match out, but it's draining to see for the players themselves. Like it's starting to stifle them too, I think, and definitely affect confidence, definitely affect mindset and everything. But things have to change. And the tough thing is, while we could sit here and say like you're trying to find positives, you're trying to look at positives. I really see no positives in yesterday's game, like, to be honest. And yes, Keane for the touch and stuff, that's great. I gave him a pass. I gave Chiesa a pass because those two were on a friggin' island. Any sniff that those two got, they created for themselves. I felt incredibly frustrated for Chiesa and Keane myself, watching that game. So I didn't want to hear about everybody's talking about Keane being junk and all this. And I'm like, guys, what? I don't care which striker you would have chosen and put up there. They would have had the same tough time. It was ugly from us as a team output and whatnot. But we're in the conversation right now. As frustrated as we are and whatnot, and as we need to change things, and we know we need to change things, we kind of talked about a back 4 and whatnot, and Rugani's come up as of late because of the reliability he's given over the past 2.5 years and whatnot. Like, is Rugani maybe in need of more minutes? Can he maybe help us shift to a back 4? Do you think changing things up into a back 4 helps us distribute our players spatially more evenly in order to form some type of press? There was no press against Atalanta.
I mean, you're saying I wish that was the case, but I think that it's a bit of a reach in a lot of ways, because I think that if you look at, like, one of our complaints in the last couple seasons is, like, who is this squad built for? What formation is this squad built to play?
Yeah.
And if you look at all that, you think, hey, right now we're finally actually built to play a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
And we finally have the personnel to fully play a 3-5-2, and now we're going to go to a back four. I think we have less capabilities of playing at a back four than we did last year, because I think Quadrado is probably a more competent right back than McKennie would be or Weah would be in terms of defensive capabilities. And then who's our guy on the left? Are we playing Cambiasso, who's struggling right now? Or are we playing Illing? Or are we playing Illing and Kostic? I think we know as full-on left backs is not a good idea.
Yeah, and I have question marks about Cambiasso defensively too. Yeah. What?
So who's going to throw him in that spot? Like, I'm a big advocate for giving Gatti a shot on the right, because he keeps bombing up. Like, he keeps playing the right center back role like an ex right back would, in my opinion. But then at the end of the day, that we're so overloaded on the right, we have nobody for the left. Realistically, and I threw it in the chat. I mean, if I had 50 million euros, I'm going out and I'm getting a couple of guys on loans with options to buy that could fill the spot.
Yeah.
Not Matsuki, because Matsuki's on the right, but a Matsuki-like player, Matsuki-esque, this kind of journeyman that's got Grinta that doesn't really give a shit what team he's playing on. Give me those guys. Give me a bunch of guys that like at this point, give me a bunch of Serie B guys that are just heart, that have only heart. Because at this point, these quote unquote talented top class players that we supposedly have that are not playing like that, they're not doing it for me.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you one question as we're getting close here to wrapping things up. How confident are you in Juve achieving top four? Tal?
Yeah, no, top four's going to be a struggle. But at the end of the day, the season that we had last year, like, let's not forget Sulcampo, where we were in third place.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that even at our worst, we finished third. Let's not forget that even when we were in Serie B, because they had to relegate us, Napoli was naturally there beneath us in Serie B. Okay? That's kind of how I like to think about it. Even at our worst, we're in third place.
Yeah.
They had to claw every scandal in the book that they could, and they're even now proving, and more papers are coming out now and saying, hey, all that stuff last season was basically bullshit, but we're not going to make a big deal out of it now that we figured out that it was bullshit, because we're now getting exonerated for the salary maneuvers and a lot of other stuff, if anybody's actually paying attention to the court cases anymore. So, yeah, I actually had to run, but love you guys, love the AGC Army. Everybody sign up to your local JOC.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tal. Always a pleasure, brother. We'll get you on here again sometime. Take care.
Ciao.
Ciao. So there you go. There's thoughts from Tal coming in here. And we got ARB Comps coming in. I'm going to get him in here real quick here. Let's get him in here. Let's get RB in here. Let's see. Joe, how are you doing, brother?
Outside of Juve, I'm doing good, but I mean, that game yesterday, It's so sad to see the state of Juve right now.
It really,
Just completely lacking ideas and everything.
it really is, my friend. I mean, it's not a Juve that any of us want to become accustomed to. Like I said, for me, the words after from Szczesny, they just broke me, man. They just broke me. It was a fear. It was a feeling I had. We talk about it in these little, in these podcasts that we analyze the games after. And I said, but to actually hear it come out of the words from one of our players, it's disheartening. It really is. We're talking about top four now, really, even through our struggles and whatnot. You still confident we hit top four?
We'll get top four. We'll easily get top four, but I don't want fourth place. I don't want third place. I don't want second place. I want the Champions League. I want trophies. This is not what this club is all about. This club is about winning. This club is about trophies. Unfortunately, what hurt me most yesterday is, like you said, not the performance, because we've seen plenty of those performances in the 3 years Allegri's been here. It's not the performances that annoys me. It's the mentality when you've got players like, Szczesny saying, and Cuadrado as well, before he left.
Yeah.
And when you've got players like Barrenechea, when you've got players like Zachary, when you've got players like De Ligt saying that the training is harder. Soulé, Frosinone, saying that where's Soulé at the moment?
Soulé's at Frosinone, yeah.
Frosinone, yeah. When you've got players at Frosinone saying that the training is more intense there, there are issues. There are issues. Like, I want to see what they're doing in training. What are they doing in training?
Yeah.
Because, what I'm seeing on the pitch is they just look like they've given up. They look like they're just strolling through games.
Yeah.
They look like they've just completely given up on the coach. Or maybe they've not given up on the coach and they're just listening to what he's saying and just defending for the entire match.
Yeah.
And, that I've tried to defend Allegri. I've tried to defend this guy to the hills.
Yeah.
But when I see performances like yesterday, where there's just completely a lack of ideas, how am I supposed to defend them? I can't defend them. I simply can't.
Yeah.
And, when you've got people like Giuntoli saying, our rivals are Fiorentina and Roma, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. We're Juventus. We're not some little club like Atalanta or Fiorentina. We're Juventus. We should be competing for trophies. And unfortunately, at the moment, the team has a loser mentality. Well, let's call it for what it is. The team has a loser mentality. And the fact Szczesny is saying that, we're happy with the point. And I don't know if you saw, Allegri said that he was happy with the performance.
Yeah.
He said he was happy with the performance. We didn't create one single chance the entire match. Unless I'm wrong, unless you can tell me I'm wrong, I can't remember one clear-cut chance we created that game apart from.
No, there was. It finished with 4 attempts and 0 big chances created. Yeah.
Exactly. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And the fact Allegri is saying that we played well, I mean, again, I can't defend that. I can't defend that.
I'm with you. I'm with you on all your thoughts, feelings. I've been saying the same thing here through this show. It's unsettling. It's disheartening, and it's just the tough spot that we're in is that realization that we gotta muscle through. Something's got to be sorted out here. And again, it's almost like it takes you to a level where you're looking beyond the players and coach and the guys that are actually above. You would have to think that at some point, through this and whatnot, we used to see Agnelli, and even for all the nonsense and even, him losing sight of things towards the end and the frustration he has also brought to some fans towards the end of his run and whatnot, there was a definite influence that was there from Agnelli, a presence. You know what I mean? Even that has disappeared now. So it's really hard to see how we can get a change, how we can get some types of influence that's going to be guys, what's happening right now can't happen. We need to wake up. I can't picture Agnelli being okay with Giuntoli coming out and giving that list of teams as our rivals. I can't see it. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
Pavel Nedved?
Exactly.
If Nedved was still around, he would have probably puked and lost his mind and flipped out. Could you imagine Nedved in the stadium watching the game yesterday and whatnot? Like, again, we have lost that influence for all the shit that Nedved took and whatnot, and even their managers for their mistakes and whatnot. There was influence coming from there. There was this desire to change, desire to correct things, but now you've also lost that because you have a management team that's like created that's just about the numbers. Scanavino, Ferraro, they're nothing. They're nothing, you guys, and I'm convinced that they're temps, okay? From Giuntoli sporting director side and everything, outside of that, Elkin is non-existent. He's not there. He doesn't carry the influence. There's nothing coming from above, and we have lost that as well. There is this difficult task that is going to come ahead for Juventus in order to rediscover and find everything that made us unique and beautiful and whatnot. But this Juventus of old has almost completely faded. Sad to say, but I don't know where it starts now because there's no influence from the board. You're hearing stories about Elkin and selling potentially and whatnot, but I don't know right now. To continue on with Allegri, which is going to happen because of the finances, I don't know how things are going to change, my friend.
I don't know either. I mean, there's a complete lack of identity.
Yeah.
At least, for example, with Brighton, for example, even though they lost 6-1 to Villa, you could still see what they were trying to do. You could still see, the ideas that they were trying to go for. You could still see that the football that they were trying to play. But every time I watch Juventus, I don't know what we're trying to do, honestly. I don't understand what we're trying to do.
And
it's a shame.
It is. It's a shame, and it's a tough ask right now because I honestly feel like we've gone full circle and nobody knows the right answer. We're at the point now where we're questioning everything, not just players, coach. Like, can a new coach even come in and operate with this and turn this Juventus around? Like, the thing is that we're sinking deeper and deeper, I think. And while it's not dire or drastic, looking at the standings, sitting at 14 points, 4 points off the top, that's not dire. And there's going to still be some fans out there that are saying, this is not critical, this is not panic mode. But it kind of is when you look at what's been developing and how these results are coming. And where we're starting to go now. That Sassuolo match being pivotal because the good things, the progress we would have seen in the start of the season has now almost completely been erased. Would you say?
No, exactly. Like the table isn't worrying. The table in itself is not worrying because we're match day 6, match day 7. We're like, as you said, 4 points off the top. That's not worrying in itself. What's worrying is the performances and the fact that we've seen, practically zero progress in 3 years.
Yeah,
it's the same. That's what's worrying, and that's what's making people say, "Oh, it's crisis mode."
Yeah, because if we look at these teams, so Inter's rolling. Okay, they're rolling. They looked to struggle a couple games. They brought on Lautaro Martinez, and then he went off, whatever. But they're winning games, okay? They had the hiccup there against Sassuolo, kind of like us. Kind of funny in the terms that Berardi was the one that sunk him, and if he got the red against us, wouldn't have done it. But that's besides the point. I did enjoy that at least. Milan had the awful Derby della Madonnina. Other than that, they're playing good football. Napoli kind of stumbled out of the gate, but they are playing good football now all of a sudden, and they can fire, and they have firepower, and they know what they're capable of. Atalanta has had a couple of hiccups, but they're creating a lot, and eventually these are going to start falling for them, and you got to think they're going to find their scoring boots. And us, it's the opposite. So we started off good, promising, whatever. We had the hiccup, and now we're kind of going down. So that's the concerning part. So while everybody looks at the standings and it's only 4 points off, it's not make or break time. Well, we're kind of going down the skid, and it's the main thing that we've all touched on. It's that mindset. It's that mentality. And we're all concerned about the same thing, that this team is fragile. And that's the only way I can explain it. And now it's going to be up to these guys to prove it to us that they're not, that they can battle through and they can keep it going. It's making me think about everything, man. It's making me think about last season, even if, we said it is, I said it a lot last season and it kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. And I said, maybe that points penalty and everything is kind of masked us in terms of the change that was needed last season with Max Allegri. You know what I mean? And I think he might have got the pass because we all felt so bad for him, because he shouldn't have been the one at the front of that, dealing with all that shit head on. It was unfair to him as a coach or whatnot, but at the same time, it might have been this mask that made it seem like it wasn't, as bad as it should have been and that we needed to change. What are your thoughts on that before we kind of sign off and wrap up here, brother?
No, I agree with everything you've just said. This team is just, it's unrecognizable. It's unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Like a man like Buffon, if Buffon was at the club, we would never see this. We would never see this. If Buffon was at the club, Chiellini, players like that, we would not see this. And I think getting rid of the coach, I don't think that would fix everything, because there are still a lot of players in this club that just have a weak mentality.
I agree.
Weak mentality. Players like Szczesny, who's, I said for the longest time, in credit to Szczesny, he did say up the point yesterday, but when he's saying stuff like that, it makes me not believe, because when they don't believe, how am I supposed to believe that we're going to do anything?
Yeah.
It does not fill me with confidence.
It's completely counterproductive, you would think, to a team that's in our state and trying to build something up and trying to, find an identity and whatnot. It's completely counterproductive. And that's the biggest thing, is like, we are not forming or shaping any type of mentality whatsoever, unless it's to be a Provinciale side, because that is essentially how we're approaching games. And when you hear players say that they believe that's kind of what we needed to do, that's alarming. That's a big, big cause for concern.
It is very alarming.
And if I don't hear some player of some sort come out against that, like, I would have wanted to hear somebody speak out against that and be like, no. Like, we need to do way, way better. I don't want to hear that, we did good because we accepted the fact that we should just be going for 1 point. What is this? I don't know, my friend, but we got a long way to go. The Derby della Mola will at least have the ultras back. Let's hope for a wake-up call, a shift. Let's get healthy. Let's get Vlahovic. Let's get Milik back. Let's hope that Vlahovic and Chiesa can lead the charge, because at least as far as attitude goes, those guys have had that. McKennie has also had the right attitude and approach through it. But for the most part, a lot of these guys, they just don't look like they have that attitude. Like, they don't have that swagger. They don't have this, like, let's get after it, let's go, and raring to go. I just see a very, very passive team, and I don't like that. So, again, I've always said, while he's not the entire problem, but I've always said that a team is a reflection of their coach. And
agreed.
I think that has to shift. But Max, man, I hope he can do it. But one way or another, I believe this is the last go for Max, my friend. I think this is the last season.
It is. I mean, if he does badly, how do I put this? If he does not win the league this season and he stays, it's a disgrace. He should not stay if he does not win the league, because we're out of Europe. The team is good enough. I know I said last year that the team was, but no. I look at it now, the team is good enough to win the league this season. Especially we're out of Europe. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't win the league and he stays, I don't know what the board are playing at, honestly.
Yeah. I'm starting to become at a loss for words, my friend. So we'll see. I want to thank you for jumping on, RB, and keep up Thank you, and keep up the great work with the comps. Everybody, check out his stuff: Instagram, Twitter, X. It's all brilliant. Thank you, brother. Take care.
Thank you. Been on a thing always.
Ciao. All right, you guys. So we are gonna get into wrap up here, everybody. It just shows you that the frustration levels are at an all-time high with Juventini, despite 4 points off from the top. And you would think that, hey, it's not that bad. It's the fact that we started off looking good, looking positive, despite draw to Bologna and whatnot, but then the Sassuolo thing hit. How are we going to react? How is this team going to react? That was the biggest question. Well, so far our reaction has been weak, to say the least. And there are definite concerns around it possibly continuing this way. As far as one of the comments RB made that the team is good enough to battle for the Scudetto, this is the one main argument going around right now, still in types of defense with Max Allegri. And while I say our roster does need work, this is largely the same roster of last season. A roster that was able to go through hell and back, but still finish in third place, sul campo, and get so deep in Europa League, okay? Same roster, essentially. So if you're telling me if you take the other outside competitions in and just have to focus on Serie A, this team can't compete for the Scudetto, I call bullshit. But if this team doesn't believe in it and the players don't believe in it and they think all they're capable of is coming up second best on every match and just try to scrape results, then yeah, we're as good as dead. You gotta change it. Please, Max, I'm begging you. Start. But if you're not going to do it now in 3 years, creating an identity, forming an identity, making men out of some of these guys, I'm afraid it won't happen. But I hope to be wrong. I hope to be wrong here, okay? Derby della Mola next on deck. Juventini, you guys know the drill. I'll keep you up to date with the news through the week, all right? Thank you, everybody who was part of here. It was, hey, it's therapy sessions right now, but we got to get out of this therapy sessions, okay? We got to get back to a victory, and hopefully we can do it against Derby della Mola. I'll keep you all in line. Again, drop a like on your way out. The live chat, you guys are always fire, no matter what, okay? We'll talk to you later on in the week on another live session before the Derby della Mola, okay? Stay tuned for those daily update videos and drop some likes. Keep supporting, all right? Much love. As always, no matter what, fino alla fine, forza Juve. Ciao tutti. Take care.
Yeah.